Now, and it might be workflow driven and database driven, right? So they might just be gathering if it's a QA process and they need to be within some range of metallurgy in order for them to have a goal for a product to another step or something. I can see a little integration there. You're right. The lab function itself is going to be its own standalone.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. Pronto is not a household name among the ERP options available in the market unless you are from Australia or New Zealand. Also, Australia is a different beast when it comes to meeting the statutory requirements of that country. Australia's economy is heavily influenced by specific industries such as mining. Naturally, the software from Australia will have deep capabilities for those industries. But how capable is Pronto for other industries? How do they approach the market? Where are they going to be the best fit and where would they struggle? These are the questions you will have if you are evaluating Pronto as the potential option for your next ERP project. In today's episode, we invited a panel of industry experts for a live discussion on LinkedIn to conduct an independent review of Pronto ERP's capabilities. We covered many grounds, including their strengths in mining and retail industries, along with their exclusive focus on the Australian market. Finally, we discussed their mining-specific capabilities, such as having vehicles on the BOM, chemical analysis for metallurgy, and super bills. With that, let's get to the conversation.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We pick one vendor or the solution that we review independently, and we always have an expert panel that is willing to share their insights and wisdom. For today, we are going to be discussing a very unique solution called Pronto ERP. They are unique overall from the geography perspective, and that matters a lot when it comes to an ERP software. So we will be discussing all of that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros, and I am going to start with my intro. If you don't know me, I am Sam Gupta. I'm your host and principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm, and we review ERP for living, and Pronto is always fun. So I am going to move to Phil now for his intro.
Hi, everybody. Phil Kerper, Managing Director of Ringling Business Solutions. We help our clients align their digital strategy with their core business practices. And I've been in the C-suite for several decades and got a lot of ERP background. So looking forward to the conversation tonight, Sam.
Here, Phil. Dave, can I move to you for your intro?
Sure. Thanks, Sam. Hi, everybody. Great to be here with you. My name is Dave Chrysler, and I own an operations consulting business working with manufacturing leaders to help them create the systems they need to achieve operational excellence. And I come to you with more than 20 years in manufacturing operations, systemizing businesses, and doing ERP implementations. So excited to be here with y'all. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Dave. Andy, can I move to you next for your intro?
Absolutely. I just first want to mention that Dave is obviously a ventriloquist, because his mouth wasn't moving. That was really, really, really talented. That's something else. Good for you. My name's Andy Pratico. I am the grizzled veteran with the Chrome Dome, apparently. I've been involved in ERP software for manufacturers for forever. I've worked all over North America. I've worked with over 1,000 manufacturers. And I have written a book and authored a book about how to select ERP software. And thank you so much for inviting me, Sam.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Andy. And if you are in the audience and joining for the first time, we typically cover your questions or comments. So make sure you guys are going to post them. Our panelists are going to be watching them. If you run out of time, then we'll make sure that you receive your answers. On that note, I am going to start with the briefing for this one, and then I'm going to open up the floor for your experiences and the commentary. So from my understanding of what I have seen overall from Pronto's perspective, this software or ERP started in Australia. And Dave, if you are speaking, I don't know, seem to be speaking, but we are not.
Dave, you're muted. Are you?
No, I'm having trouble with my tech.
Okay, problem. All right, guys. So I'll keep moving, I guess. So Pronto started in Australia, and obviously it has very deep flavor of Australia. And when it comes to the ERP systems, some of the people, they don't understand how much it matters the overall the localization piece of the country as well as for the provinces. It matters a lot overall, and you need to make sure that whichever country that you are going to be implementing as part ERP system, you want to make sure that it is going to be localized and supported for those countries. And some of the countries could be extremely unique. For example, let's say if you go to countries like Mexico or Brazil, those countries have very different reporting requirement. They have very different taxation requirements. And even in case of Australia, they are going to have extremely unique requirement overall from the federal perspective, but they also have, some of the provinces which are going to be extremely unique, because we saw in some of the comments where we noticed that users were reporting that, okay, you developed a software in this province, but it doesn't work for my province. So that's how tricky Australian geography is. And overall, from the coverage perspective, my understanding is that Pronto likes to target, number one, Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, just because of the proximity, obviously. And then they are also trying to penetrate in North America. I have seen a couple. I am not too sure if this is really designed for North America, but I've definitely seen some implementations here in North America. Now, today morning, I think I got one comment on LinkedIn, and I'll probably open up the floor and ask for your commentary as well. I heard that they are not as penetrated in New Zealand for some reason. So, they were localized only for 4 countries, and they are not even penetrated in New Zealand. But again, this is not the official confirmation. This is what I'm hearing from a few guys in New Zealand. And again, I don't know how true that is. So, okay, so now that makes it very, very focused software. And obviously, you need to make sure that it is going to be localized and globalized for your country before you incorporate as part of your evaluation. Now, overall, from the positioning perspective, Pronto is going to be, in my mind, it's a very technical system. The way the system is designed, the way the architecture is, the way the says, overall, it's a very technical system. And, if I were to compare, that's my closest comparison is going to be overall from the tech stack approach strategy, technical strategy perspective, it's probably going to be Next World. And I don't know whether you guys remember Next World or not. That's how they are trying to position themselves. They are trying to ride the wave of low code, and they are going to say, you know what, I'm going to provide you technical platform. You guys, business people, figure out, how to build your logic on top of my technical platform. Now, in my mind, that doesn't go very well in the ERP community. So that's my perception overall of Pronto, the way they approach things. The other closer comparison overall from the technical perspective, but they are not as technical, is probably going to be Infor and Microsoft as well, to be honest, okay? Those are 2 very technical systems. They are not as business focused in the way business systems are designed. So that's probably the comparison. Obviously, Infor is going to be far deeper in terms of the business functionality, but the overall approach of the system design and the architecture and the data model is going to be very technical. And sometimes people say that flexible. So that is the term they use when they say that, the system is very flexible. Okay, so what flexible means is it's a very technical system. You can do whatever you want. It's not going to be as controlled from the business perspective. And in my mind, when I say non-technical system business, those are slightly more controlled system. They are not going to be as, and in my mind, it's always going to be SAP, which is the granddaddy. And that's how ERP systems are supposed to be implemented, if you want the financially controlled organization. But again, that's not for everybody. So overall, from the competition perspective, Pronto is very well penetrated in the retail market. They have a very interesting flavors, and they have very deep functionality overall from the discrete perspective, also from the process perspective. But the way system is structured, it's really designed for very retail centric organizations. They also have very distinct approach of keeping everything inside, meaning not many external consultants are going to be involved in their sales cycle. So you are going to get full suite the way you are going to get it from Info Core. So you are going to get the POS, the e-commerce, sometimes mobile apps, whatever you need from, okay, they'll give you everything. So that's the strategy that they have been taking. So now I think I'll stop there. I don't know if I covered everything, the briefing perspective, but I'll take your comments, guys.
So just to bounce off your comment on their go-to-market strategy, their partner in the U.S. and Canada is called Pronto Solutions Alliance. They are located out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, I believe. And so that you do not have a network of SIs. You've got basically a company that is aligned with Pronto, that is selling all their products, and they have an office in Canada and they have an office in the U.S. And that is, as best as I can tell, your SI choice. And the other thing, Andy, I believe these guys cut their teeth in mining early in their development as well, which makes it interesting that they are, and I've seen them in retail, that they are, retail and distribution. They do seem to have good penetration there, even though it began as a mining ERP, did it not?
It absolutely did. I'm thinking I worked with it 10 years ago. No, more than that. I'm not sure. Quite a long time ago with a company out of Toronto, which might be a reference to the Canadian office you're describing, having an office in Minnesota, etc. But yeah, it was extremely strong for the mining industry and secondarily targeted wholesale. So it's interesting that you've seen it in the retail environment as well.
Kind of odd bedfellows, but maybe that's that technical backbone that they have and the ability to be flexible, as Sam said, that allows them. They pick the customer road. They obviously must have had some inroads and penetrated.
So that's a very interesting point, guys, and I'm glad that you guys brought it up because, when you look at Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, they are all about mining, okay? Any ERP from that region is going to be very deep from the mining. And that's why, typically when an ERP starts from a region, it's going to target all the major industries in that area. They are not going to look at, okay, where my product does do well. Typically, they win in mining, then they go to retail because that's my largest industry, and that's how product typically. And by the way, you are going to be shocked, okay, because they cover some of the industries which are completely unrelated. For example, you are going to find a lot of features which are going to be related to your pharma, which are going to be related to your laboratory, okay? But obviously, they are not going to have as deep manufacturing features. They are going to be more towards either, the laboratory distribution. So there are very unique layers to that. And then they have agricultural functionality. So again, I think it goes back to which region you are serving and what industries are going to be prevalent in that region, and that typically drives the product.
One other quick point, Sam. According to their website, they've got the legacy systems, the on-prem, and that's the one that I bumped into the other day. And then they're saying they have hybrid, and then they're saying they have SaaS solution, cloud solution. I really couldn't get a deep understanding of where they are in the cloud journey. So I'm hoping some of the research that you did maybe can uncover a little bit on where they really at in their cloud.
So that's another very interesting point, and they had very limited number of demos available, just like any other silent ERP vendor. Okay, they had at least some screenshots in their documentation, so I could see some screens where they were. So I think they started championing this idea roughly in 2016. That's where they became really passionate about cloud. Before that, if you actually look at their software, it was really outdated. Okay, so at this point of time, if you look at their screens, it is one of the best. Okay, no questions about it. Overall, from the user experience, I think the closest, if any other ERP can come overall in the user experience as Pronto is probably going to be your Acumatica. Those two solutions that I have seen that, okay, they were overall from the user experience. But watch out, guys, okay, because the cloud experience is going to be for the sales app. It's also going to be for the service app, okay? The other screens, as I look closely, and sometimes I get confused, they don't seem to be as cloud native, okay? So, somebody needs to challenge me, but the way screens are done, I don't think their code is fully migrated to the cloud yet. Okay, it might be like if you look at the sales experience, you are going to be wow. Okay, this is crazy. This is like dessert. But when you look at the internal financial screens, it's just not as sexy as.
I would say probably on the business intelligence side of things too, they have a solution for that. So my guess is that that's going to be dialed up in terms of that web interface that we see and be challenging. The other comment I was going to make, kind of back to what you were saying, Phil, and some of that functionality looks like it's been obviously added over time, but this for me was the first solution that we've looked at where it wasn't really clear when you look at kind of case studies and use cases of exactly where this solution lands. So for me, that was pretty eye-opening, and back to what you were saying as well, Sam, where in terms of where they started in kind of the genesis forward and seeing all of the different industries that they're touching functionality.
Just one quick clarification, guys, there overall in terms of the screen layout and the experience. Sometimes some systems are going to be simply putting the analytic layer and claiming that I have the cloud native. Okay, don't be fooled by that, because there are systems like Microsoft GP that are doing that. Okay, there are systems like they might have the analytic layer just to make it pretty. That's what they will spend, let's say, half an hour or an hour or 2 hours in the demo just showing how cool it is. But then you have the real system that is not going to be as cloud native. But in the case of Pronto, okay, they have their sales operational workflow as cloud native. It's not just the analytics piece. So I want to be careful. Okay, any other comments, guys? Otherwise, I'll move to the. All right, guys. So we have some very interesting history here. So here they were saying that Pronto software is an Australian, obviously. That's what we concluded as well. Enterprise resource planning software vendor. Originally trading under the name Prometheus Software, the company was sold to Sausage Software, and I don't know why you would choose that name unless you are selling to Sausage. Okay, and that happened there.
I can't believe Andy doesn't have a comment on this. Andy, you got nothing? Nothing over there?
Oh,
and you're on mute.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, he muted his good comment. Time to make the sausage.
Okay, we'll wait for his comment. We'll keep moving. We'll wait for. You're on mute, MG. Okay. So here, Pronto XI is Pronto software main product. Okay, it has modules for financials, retail, CRM, supply chain management, warehouse management, manufacturing, and facilities management. Again, I think the layers, the way we are going to see, it's going to have a lot of flavors of what mining is going to require, what retail is going to require, and that's what is probably driving the design of the software. Surprisingly enough, they actually have a lot of customers, to be honest, okay? And they have some of the larger ones. And the reason why they would have these larger customers is because even if, let's say, you are going to be on SAP, sometimes if you are going to have presence in Australia, you have to buy, and if the regulations are going to be so nuanced, that it's just going to be too much to develop on top of SAP. So sometimes what companies do is, this country is very tricky. Okay, let me keep my SAP in my 30 countries, and for 5 countries, I'm going to get 5 ERP software just to serve those countries, because it's just a nightmare to build on top of something like SAP, Oracle. So that's very common, and that could be the reason why they would have those countries. But obviously, if it is going to be a purely Australian company, this is pure gold, no questions about. Overall from the regulation perspective. Now, they seem to have very tight affiliation with IBM, and I did not cover that as part of my briefing. And IBM, I personally find as a very strange company in general. Okay, and I don't know what your experience is, with IBM, but when I look at IBM, this is probably the most confused company, okay? And the reason why I call IBM is because they are technically extremely superior, okay? But they have not had much of a success overall in terms of their product. They now are focusing more on the consulting world, but then they have a very strong engineering organization. So I don't know what is happening to their core software and the hardware portfolio. And when you are going to be aligning yourself with a vendor who does not seem to know what they are doing, I'm not too sure about it. Okay. So here they have always had very tight alignment with IBM, and their, if you look at their analytics layer, it's built on Cognos. The database is Informix, and I don't know that would use Informix as of today. Okay, so that's very new experience for me, at least in the ERP community. And by the way, if you look at their technical footprint, they also seem to be developing on top of Linux. And again, that's very developer-centric approach. If you talk to a developer, they are very, very, very excited about, okay, I want to develop on Unix, okay? Just because that's cool for their resume, it's just cool experience as a developer. Who cares for business, right? So again, that's why I call these systems as, because they are very, very, very well influenced and driven by the community, which is great. I mean, we need technology, but again, we are implementing technology business, which is always the most important part in my. Okay, that's pretty much it on this one. I don't have any other commentary. They have been in the market for some time, but they really sort of rebranded them in 2016. That's where they became really aggressive. I don't know what their strategy is as of today, but they are moving really fast in terms of the product evolution. Okay, this is super cool. This is sweet. I love it. The UI experience. Oh my goodness. I don't think any ERP systems out there can really match what these guys are able to do. And again, this is all built on IBM, which is technically very superior overall. That is used in very, very, very strong analytical organizations. For example, let's say if you go to any of the sports academy or the NBA or NFL, they all are going to be on IBM. That's where the power is. But I don't know if your average, retail shop needs the IBM firepower. But again, if you have that, that's great, to be honest. Okay. So here, Pronto XI runs on Red Hat, AIX on Solaris, or Microsoft Windows Server 2008. In Unix and Linux deployments, users access the application's proprietary client application, which connects to the server using each telnet. Oh my goodness, too much technical, okay? Not for ERP, I guess, unless, again, ERP implementations are developers, they'll find it exciting, but again, the goal of ERP is to drive business outcome. That's what I care for in my mind. Okay. Now, let's look at this one. I mean, this is the experience that we are talking about. And these are, by the way, the customer portals. Okay. I have never seen as pretty customer portals in my entire life provided by the. Okay. So this is a big deal. Okay. Irrespective of which system, even if you are talking about their vendor portals and the customer really are. Okay. This seems like as if you are getting an add-on, and typically you are going to have really, really add-ons that you get on top of your ERP system, and those are probably going to be as pretty as this. This is a real deal, guys. If they are able to do all of this, and this is the customer portal, vendor portal, and they are to provide this out of the box, pre-integrated, this is a big deal. Now, this is another unique flavor that I did not cover as part of the briefing. So they have a lot of HCM capabilities built as part of the ERP, which is very uncommon across the ERP spectrum. It's very rare that you are going to find the HCM functionality, because for the most part, once you are going to have 100 employees, you need a lot. And it just does not make a lot of sense, to be honest, to cram that in the ERP. And the way HR process work, they have far deeper compliance issues. They have far deeper confidentiality issues. And the issues could be you don't want to tell your salary to your colleague, okay? It's that sensitive. And then you are going to have privacy laws. So HR systems typically follow very different compliance laws than your financial systems. And that's why companies don't like to merge them together. But obviously, Pronto is actually trying to merge them together. So again, you need to be slightly more careful when you are going to be implementing, when you are going to be providing the access. And there are significant and substantial penalties if you are going to be failing on your HR system. So that's why the HR systems are going to be far more control certified, the way they implement, the kind of consultants you are going to hire. They really need to know ERP systems as well, but not as much as it.
Yeah, this one was, I mean, this is different, right? Their philosophy of everything in one package, and you just either decide to turn it on or not, versus modules, because HCM typically would be a module in most systems, or you might already have a third-party module and it's a pain to change it. So you're just going to leave that be and try to integrate that, which is its own problem. But this is interesting that they chose to try to develop, some what looks like some pretty good HCM functionality, on the same ERP platform. That's really interesting.
So just to be clear, Phil, when you say HCM module inside ERP, it's very rare to find the real HCM module, at least with the mainstream providers. The only thing they are going to keep is going to be the data points that they need to be able to enable their scheduling, their costing, to enable the finances. That's what they have. They don't have a full-blown HCM system where they are going to be keeping people's salary, gender. Those are very sensitive conversations and topics.
Right, 100%. You said that better than I did. It's sitting outside, and they're bringing payroll in. Maybe if they want to be dealing with payroll by department on the GL, or maybe they want to be dealing with other things, but they're not bringing in the sensitive stuff. 100% agree.
But sorry,
go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to. Does this system? I don't remember from when I worked with it a long time ago. Does it offer Canadian or U.S. payroll, Sam, or you're not sure?
So from the go-to-market strategy perspective, my understanding of their go-to-market strategies, they are really penetrated in Australia, and that is probably the reason why they are able to offer HCM as part of ERP. Because when you are going to be talking about HCM compliance, even inside the U.S., 50 states, they all have very different compliance requirements. Okay, there's no way in the hell any ERP can pull that off. So again, that's why they are very limited if you are going to be, tight coupling your HCM capability ERP. And that's why, I typically, whenever we are working in any engagement, we typically like to keep, HCM completely separate, because you can get a payroll and the HCM capabilities for cheaper than your ERP, and it's a very different system. So in that case, the integration is not going to be as thick as your e-commerce system or something like that. So keeping that in a completely different system is probably a better idea than bringing all of that HCM functionality inside your.
David, do you have a question?
No, I was just going to add to it. I think we're going to get to it in a later slide, Sam, that you've got in there in terms of, some of the functionality with this. But that's what I kind of took away, and what I think is interesting when a solution decides to put this functionality kind of in there, but doesn't quite nail it in terms of, the full functionality that you would expect with other solutions as that bolt-on. It's potentially a miss and actually detracts from the overall solution by trying to kind of force fit a half-hearted solution, if you will. And like I said, I think we're going to get to that in a later slide, but I just find that kind of interesting.
I completely agree, and this is where I think the add-on could be very powerful. So let's say if you are going to be simply integrating something like Bamboo, it's an amazing HCM software, and then you can simply bring the GLs, and that's that any ERP event. So this is where add-ons, should be utilized. And we always keep talking about add-ons. This is where you should be utilizing it. Okay, so let's talk about inventory, and the way their screens are structured. It seems very flat. Okay, and that's always my concern when I look at the system. And typically, the more layered your data architecture to be, the more capabilities you're going to have overall from what all business processes and the transaction types that you might. So when I look at this one, it looks pretty, but it's very flat. Okay, and that is what we see typically when we are reviewing any sort of ERP system. But they have some very interesting functionality. For example, let's say if I look at things like ABC classes, and we know this when we review any sort of retail, that's where we really find the ABC classes. You are not going to find that in manufacturing systems. They just don't like to keep those. Don't worry about the ABC classes retail distribution organizations are going to have. And then you have the shelf life. And shelf life you are going to find when you are going to have a product that is going to be either pharma, agriculture. So they have that. But now this could be very frightening for somebody. Let's say if I'm producing widget for manufacturing and I have my shelf life, what am I doing? So sometimes it could be overwhelming overall if you are trying to accommodate too many different business as part of the same ERP system. Then you have things like storage type, traceability, and you have some very interesting flavors. And these interesting flavors we see in very, very, very small ERP system or e-commerce system that are trying to pretend to be an ERP. Okay, so things like brand description. What is it there? That doesn't make any sense. That's very e-commerce, and it should probably go to e-commerce. But since they again are trying to act pretty much everything, okay, I'm HCM, I'm ERP, I'm e-commerce. It becomes all over the place. Some of the things they have, prices, the warehouse, the suppliers, the movements, orders layered as part of the inventory. So, it's going to be far bigger than your smaller ERP system, because sometimes they are probably not the pricing layers or the item warehouse. They might support only one warehouse. So obviously it can support slightly more complex business processes because of those layers. And then when I look at things like UOM, that is not layered. Okay. Now that's a real red flag for me, to be honest. Okay. When your unit of measure is not going to be layered, then okay, you are probably going to find a lot of challenges. And Phil, I don't know whether you remember this or not. You are part of the econ series. We have seen the unit of measure layers even in very small e-commerce systems, because you need that even if you're a very so in this particular case, I'm probably not seeing it. It's very flat, the way data relationship. So I don't know. I mean, there might be some challenges.
Yeah, and the software that's aimed at distribution business models has surprisingly heavy layers of unit of measure, even like you say in the smaller systems. So for them to be flat here, it's actually surprising.
Then we have some very interesting functionality. Again, the way the reorder policy is done, typically I would like to see that at the item warehouse level, to be honest, even if I am a retail system. If that is going to be flat right at the item level, sometimes they might have layers at the warehouse level as well. And this could be just the item details. But I personally like to see that at the item where what it is doing there, unless their data is concerned. Some of the things that I have never seen before, for example, let's say if I have the part separation convert, I guess that's going to be the SKU software that they are trying to provide to make sure that your master data is going to be aligned, which is a neat piece of function. But again, that we typically see in very smaller ERP system. Then you have the laboratory subsystem, and we have something called index drawing. I've never seen that before, so that's very, very unique. I don't know if you guys have seen.
Now, I was curious on that laboratory subsystem, if that was some sort of a quality module.
It is. It's for testing and capturing the tests from the laboratory.
And guys,
how do you say the word? Metallurgy. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Bill. But that's what it's for. But the part super session conversion, I think that's just like a part number alias.
Yeah. Okay. So it may not be alias. I want to be careful there. My understanding is that is just to split the SKU number that you'll be. That's my understanding. It's more of a suggestion too. So they are providing that as part of ERP. That's my understanding. I could be wrong.
Andy, do you think that laboratory subsystem then it goes back to the mining kind of origins of this, obviously, with that?
Correct.
Got it.
I'm sure it's diversified and to be used in other quality aspects, but that's what its DNA is.
Yeah, but I mean, these operational systems, when you talk about the real chemical analysis, to be honest, they are better off residing outside of ERP because of the kind of data it is going to have, and it's just a very different flow. You don't need to. For example, even if you go from one chemical analysis to the next. So in this case, you mentioned the metallurgy, right? So they are going to have very different chemical analysis than your diagnostic laboratory. If you are looking at that, then they are going to have very different analysis. So how many are you going to accommodate? Then you become more of the analysis, your real ERP software. So you're better off keeping all your operations, outside of the ERP because they have nothing to do with the financial aspect.
Yeah, Sam, but on that one, it might be workflow driven and database driven, right? So they might just be gathering if it's a QA process and they need to be within some range of metallurgy in order for them to have a goal for a product to move to another step or something. I can see a little integration there. You're right. The lab function itself is going to be its own standalone.
Exactly. And I think that's what they have. And we have some screenshots of that as well. So if it is going to be embedded as part of your manufacturing process, you are right, Phil, that you need to definitely have that. Yep. Okay. And this is sweet. I absolutely love this one. Okay. I've never seen this before in any ERP. And this is your supply chain diagram. Okay. Typically, you need to draw this when you are going to an engagement, but this is killer. This is showing all of your finished goods wherever they are going, all of your raw materials. I don't know how much drill down you are going to have as part of this one, but this is really sweet, and it shows that the system is designed for the retail distribution. That is not why you would have that. You are not going to have this in your mining industry or manufacturing. Okay, and this is the analysis that is coming from tech. I guess tech is the organization. They are also in the system evaluation space, and I believe they did few years back. So this is available in the public domain. So we have some comments here, some very interesting, and they are saying that this means they provide a single code application and no integration is required for the most typical business processes. The customer does not need to purchase and install additional third-party systems. That's what our observation as well. The company offers additional partner applications mostly for business intelligence using, I don't know what that is. Maybe that is IBM, and interfacing with other systems. Pronto hosted services that provide multi-site hosting and manageability with data mirroring and replication. So by the way, guys, they are on their own data centers. So they are not hosting on the mainstream provider. So that is also a point you noted, that you are really, and by the way, I noted that the only place where they have the data center is really in Australia. Okay, so if you are going to be a Canadian company, sometimes there might be challenges, because the country does not want to leave their data. You might not have those probably in manufacturing, but let's say if you are in aerospace, you might have those constraints. Here they are saying contains a robust and powerful POS for retailers and distributors. Yes, they have POS, they have e-commerce, they have a lot. Okay, can SMS the inventory manager to alert him or her that a particular item is out of stock? Great. But items should not be out of stock because your meant strategy should work. Why didn't it? So this is where the whole mindset difference is, in terms of whether you are a technical system or but I mean, it's nice to have to. So with standard auditing capability, by the way, the auditing is I've never seen, or by the way, this is the technical. Okay, this is very, very, very technical perspective, and we have seen this audit even in the case of Word, because developers want to make their life easy, so they want technical audit. But what about those CFOs? Those are the actual users of, so they need to have audit from their perspective. But this is really great. I mean, I actually like their audit. So here they are saying not as robust as, what is this? They are talking about the process manufacturing capabilities, that they have process manufacturing. From my understanding, I don't think this is really designed for that, even though they might have a little bit of functionality there, some fields, but that is really designed for those distribution companies. There is a difference between process distribution and process manufacturing. Pharma distribution is a very different business than pharma manufacturing. This solution might be okay for Australian pharma distributor. It might not be okay for Australian manufacturer. So you need to be careful overall in terms of the business. That's maybe required for, okay, so they are talking about recipe management. Obviously, it does not have that. It's not designed for that. What else am I looking? Overall rating for the human resources module was lower due to a relatively weaker employee self-service functionality. By the way, tech, employee self-service functionality is not the only thing that a HR system has, or HCM system is supposed to be way deeper. Okay, your average SAP can probably support your employee self-service functionality, but they are not trying to claim that they are ever going to be a system. You need to go to SuccessFactors functionality. This functionality ideally allows employees to view pay stubs and review their maintain. This is great. I mean, see, if I can see my pay stub in the employee self-service mode, I'm okay with that in having that functionality as part of ERP. But they should not be positioning this as that's not the goal of. But when you combine your benefits, if you're simply getting the journal entry related to benefits, that's a different deal than having your benefits management as part of your ERP. It's too much for. And this is where they say, company focuses mainly on Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, North American markets. But again, we have the confirmation from New Zealand that they are not as penetrated. North America, not too sure, but Australia definitely. As such, the company is translated into French and Spanish. By the way, they also have problems with language. And that is very unique, to be honest. I've never seen that before in any language. Should be at least easy to translate, but they are limited there as well. So, pretty this one. Some comments. Not. I move on. Okay, Pronto Cloud can even host. This is where I'm confused. Okay, so now you are going to host me as well. So are you an ERP business? Are you simply selling some consulting services here? So you sound more like value-added reseller now. I can do anything. I can also do your laundry cleaning if you require, Andy. Okay, centers. Okay, so here we have.
Just wait, Sam. For the next 25 buyers, we'll send a free set of Jinsu knives too.
Oh boy. Okay, so this is where I noted that they have the Informix as their RDBMS, and they have the form, which is cool.
Yeah, by the way, Sam, you made a comment about Informix earlier. In the 1990s, it was absolutely state of the art.
You are talking about 1990 or 1919?
There's no quarter for Andy tonight.
Okay, all right, guys. This is where the real sweet spot is, to be honest, the audit log. This is sweet. Okay, it's very technical, but you can still trace overall in terms of who changed what. You are going to look at object, and my finance people are going to freak out. What the hell is an object? you know. So again, that's where the technical perspective comes from. But still, overall from the traceability, it could be very handy. When you look at this kind of form. Now, this is where their multi-company feature is, to be honest, and this is very strange. And this is the similar implementation that we saw in Next World as well. It was a very technical approach of implementing the, and here, in my mind, it almost feels as if they are keeping or treating this as a dimension. And we have, seen this in the documentation as well, where they are saying, you know what, in your GL code, I'm going to have 2 letters your company, 2 letters is your something else, and that's how they are trying to manage. So it almost seems like they are trying to keep a dimension, but they are trying to sell it as multi-company. But multi-company is overall from the finance, if you're looking at the business. So again, the way it came across as if it's a very technical way of implementing company functionality, you might be able to accomplish the outcome that you're looking for. I'm not too sure about that, but you will not be able to achieve all of those financial synergies if you really want to have that multi-entity implementation that drives it across your. Okay, so here they have some more interesting things, and as part of their BOM, and BOM is very interesting as well. By the way, in the case of BOM, you have the material and the routing as completely separate. This is what we saw in case of your Epicor, I remember correctly, and typically those are done in very assembly-centric manufacturing shops there where you don't really have the correlation between, or correlation is going to be weak, which is a huge red flag for me overall from the manufacturing. And then they have vehicle maintenance, and I've never seen, I don't know if you guys can see any value there, why you would have that. Probably mining industry requires, because they might have a lot of vehicle in there. That could be the reason. But why does it need to be part of the BOM? Because your manufacturing process, this could be probably for maybe slightly more continuous manufacturing, because the way mining industries work is probably your vehicle is going to be part of it. Not too sure about that. Don't quote me on that. But that I'm probably that's my observation.
It's interesting they mention up to 50 levels of sub-assembly, as if that's obviously is the marketing page, but guess how many levels were in the space shuttle?
16.
26. So I guess these guys can make twice as more complex as a space shuttle.
This whole slide reads mining to me. Component weight formula,
yeah.
Right? So one level is one component. One piece of the mix, so it's got zinc, it's got this, it's got iron, it's got this, and then they're probably for some reason they're using the BOM in order to manage each of those components and checking they got the right mix, and they might even be mixing and making another assembly by pulling together these different components. So this slide reads like that type of process to me.
I agree, and the fact that it's got formula in about 1/3 of the definitions certainly leans that way.
Yeah, I don't know what wizard option does. They got a wizard on staff?
I was just going to ask. I thought maybe I was missing something, but I'm glad I'm not the only one. I don't think I've ever quite
seen that. You got his hat, you got his staff, you got
Gandalf.
Lots of levels of a wizard.
Phil, it's Gandalf.
In fairness, Phil, it does fall under the variable bucket. So, sometimes
you never know which world he's in, David.
That's very true. Or who's going to show up.
All right, guys. So we have some other interesting terms here, and I don't know whether you have seen this or not. Super bills. And I don't know. I've never seen that before. I don't know what is a super bill. Maybe this is a superpower that can manufacture whatever you want. And that's
a super bill is like a planning bill, Sam.
A super bill. So is that going to be? I think they are referring to the template bill.
Well, it's a reference to the configured items.
Exactly.
Percentage of different items that'll be part of the forecast.
Exactly. That's my understanding as well. But it's interesting that they are calling it super bill, which probably is right as well, because it's really a super bill. Okay, so same bill from factory to factory as well as version types. So they have a lot of different cool features such as reference designators, that we typically in these smaller manufacturing.
Beautiful for board stuffers.
Yeah. Okay, we have. So this is my BOM header, and they have the alternate BOM, which is a sweet, neat functionality there. Then they have the percentage yield formulation quantity, but again, that's not really tying to your material. It is really at the bomb header level. So I don't know what's going on here, because typically when I'm looking at the formulation is going to be far more complex than your discrete bomb. It has far more variation in terms of the what of scenarios and in terms of the formulas that you can have as part of your recipe bomb. But if you are going to simply dump it on the header level, I don't know what you're trying to. I just don't get it. Exploded bomb is neat. Here they have some very interesting, especially from the scheduling perspective, and here they have multiple different sequences. The way you can sequence this, and I don't know if this is going to be useful in slightly more continuous manufacturing. And mining is going to be, it's not similar to your discrete shop. Mining is far more complex, in my opinion, the way their operations are. Maybe they need that there. The scheduling is good because of the kind of mining are going. Then we have the rate-based production parallel routing. And the only reason why you would be able to do parallel routing, you need to have enough data supported as part of your BOM to be able to do that. And that's why sequence number there, and they have the multiple KBT tooling that's going to be in your, that's going to be useful in a lot of different companies that are going to be slightly more chemical manufacturing. For example, let's say if you go to glass manufacturing, mold manufacturing, that's where you are going to find all of those features, which is very interesting that they are alternative, routing streams, which is very interesting that they are able to do that as well. Configurator is great. It's a very simplified configurator. Obviously, they cannot do what N4 can do, but this is basic poor man's configurator, I guess.
A high percentage of companies, this is probably going to work just fine.
Then they have very interesting way of doing the work order as well. They have the parent work order, which is definitely useful overall in terms of the scheduling. They have work order priority, which is another level. Then they have the amendment number, which is a very interesting term. I don't know if they are talking about the change order.
Is that a revision, maybe?
Yeah.
That's what I took it as.
Yeah, that's got to be Rev. That's just, they must use that in Australia.
There are some of the things such as component warehouse, at the work order level, which is route ID and line sequence number. Again, it has very different interesting flavors that could be very unique to certain industries. But again, that's not.
Yeah, and they were building soda there, by the way, and putting it in a bottle.
Interesting. Yeah, in food manufacturing, I could see a lot of value there, especially if and especially if you have both the packaging as well as the soda as part of the same facility, then you probably need a lot more. Okay, so test case functionality, absolutely love it. Okay, this is going to be extremely tricky to find in a lot of different systems, but they have really nailed it. And probably because of their mining, that's where you are going to be needing this kind of workflow, because you need to go through a lot of tests. Your testers are going to be testing a lot. So they need very easy work for all in terms of the testing, the layers of the test plan, the test case, then the observations you need to capture that you need to pour. It gets very involved if you get into the real. By the way, they have like super deep WMS. Okay. So you get everything pretty much, whatever you need from the WMS perspective. Guys, so they have a lot of things on, including how you are going to be doing your 3D warehouse. Oh my goodness. I mean, you have so much functionality. But overall, from the localization perspective, they are going to be extremely weak. So if you are an Australian business, again, this is your goal because you are getting a lot, but this is not going to be applicable. So that's pretty much it. I think this is the DRP inquiry, and that's where, and by the way, they have pegging as well. So pegging is a very, you are probably going to find that in SAP, very, very, very large systems. You are not. So again, very deep functionality. So that's it. More perspective. I'm going to open the floor for the commentary and any questions that.
Who wants to go first here? David, let's hear from you first. We'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I kind of like I started this from my commentary. I think for me, this was an interesting solution because it wasn't, at least to me, immediately clear exactly where this really lands. I mean, there's a lot of functionality in it, but specific to certain verticals. And, again, I go back to looking at those use cases, and it makes it a little challenging to find exactly where this thing lands. You can see some benefits to some of the capabilities, but kind of on the opposite side of that, some challenging areas that would make it difficult to bring in a bolt-on or an add-on to kind of shore up that functionality. So I don't know, this one was interesting for me.
Yeah, and if they kind of started in mining and then they had soda or they had other types of products that required a similar QA, a similar process flow, some similar, BOM depth and breadth. I can kind of see how that goes. I don't know from what's out there whether they're really strong enough where if you're Coca-Cola or a brewery, or you're someone actually doing chemical mixing and distribution, for example, it looks like they belong there, David, to your point, but I'd have to see more to be sure. And I think they've done a good job in a lot of areas. It's really strong functionality and depth in a lot of areas. I worry a little bit about where I'm located in.
I agree, Phil. Obviously using that soda, that lemon lime or whatever it was, as their part number, it implies that filling bottles is what they call manufacturing. And that's the thing about the manufacturing world, is that when you say you're a manufacturer, that can be so many different types of companies, and for a filling of bottles and maybe putting the label on the bottle, I'm sure this will do fine. Its real strength is always been for mining, and obviously with DRP planning and things like that, it's quite strong with wholesale, and apparently for retail as well.
And then the other one we mentioned, I think it's worth mentioning again. It's a little hard to tell. Are they really putting the functionality in the cloud, or is this still really tied to a legacy or an on-prem type of system, which for a lot of companies is not necessarily a negative. But it's a criticism I have for a lot of these ERP companies and the way they market and the way they put information out, is they don't distinguish where the functionality lives. They make it sound like it lives everywhere. And just another buyer beware, that is often not true. Even the big boys have functionality that they have yet to get into their cloud offering.
I didn't see anything that defined it as being single tenant versus multi-tenant. So I'm assuming it's single tenant, which would mean it's probably the same code whether it's in the cloud or on premise.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And then that also brings up the other point we raised is, where's your data?
In Australia.
That's really better kick the
tires. Good night, Mike.
Yeah,
that was going to be my counterpoint, Phil, back to where you started in terms of, where is this solution originate from and how far away are you, when you need that support. So always be mindful of that, regardless of where the technology lives.
Yeah, but at least when you're going down there for training or support, you're going to get a shrimp on the bobby.
So we got that working for us, Andy.
And the toilet goes backwards too.
Yeah, there you go. You're going to get in a boxing match too.
with a kangaroo. Yeah,
that would be a sight to see.
It's a rule. We want video of that, and we want to post it at our next webinar. All right, Sam, you better pull us back.
Humor's just not funny anymore.
We have 2 more minutes, guys. Keep going.
well, I think that then let's hit their SI model. So you got one choice for a system integration. You really got to make sure you pick up Andy's book, and page 1 through page 10 tells you make sure you talk to customers. Yeah. Make sure you kick the tires. It's not like if that SI doesn't work out, you're done. There's nothing else to be done.
And you know what? They've obviously been in business for quite a long time, under different names and under probably different ownerships, but I've never known them to have a strong presence in North America. They do have a presence.
All right. I think that's all I got, Sam. You got the big finish ready?
Okay, amazing. Anything else, Dave or Andy?
I could tell a joke. No.
You already did.
After the show. All right, guys. So just to wrap, if I could have just one personal takeaway from this conversation, this is what I want you guys to think when you are sending sending a SMS message or designing a technical app. Whether you send a message in North America or whether you send in a remote corner of, it's probably going to be the similar model. But when you are thinking of ERP system, it's a businesses, the taxes, the laws, the compliance. It's very different. Okay, so think about that. Don't think of ERP system as technical system. And if you are evaluating your Pronto, make sure that you have Australia and that is the only reason why you or evaluate them. Otherwise, There's no reason why you should be looking. On that note, I want to thank everybody for their time. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series. For me, every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, we pick one vendor or the solution that we do independently. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another solution. On that note, once again, thanks everyone for your time.
That's a wrap.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Dave Chrysler, head over to thechrysler.club. It's CHECRYSLER.CLUB. If you want to learn more about Andy Pratico, head over to essoft.com. It's ESSOFT.com. If you want to learn more about Phil Kerper, head over to ringlingbusinesssolutions.com. It's ringlingbusinesssolutions.com. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Jason Greenwood, who discusses the nuances of the click and collect process and why you need centralized inventory and distribution strategy to enable this experience. Also, the interview with Jeannie Doherty, who discusses how strategic bookkeeping differs from tactical bookkeeping. Also, don't forget to subscribe and spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to get you on the next episode of the WBS Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.